Hi, today we'll be talking about the rise of tech with business professional. Starting with the first question, why is the combination of technology and business becoming so important?
Um, so I think the keyword here is the digital transformation. Now everything is on the entire business. Most of the sales, service, a lot of things have moved to digital platforms. So, and because of the digital transformation that we see, there is a lot of use of technology in business, and that's where we see so much of rise, or the growth of professionals with the skill sets who have this kind of a combo, technology plus business. That is getting more and more into demand. So that's something which is coming up.
Do you need to be a coder to become a tech business professional?
Not necessarily, because a lot of you need to understand coding, but you not necessarily need to be a coder. A lot of coding is now done by some of the AI tools, and in fact, if you have to be a tech business professional, you would need to have skills where you understand the business. You have the skills of understanding things like what technology can solve a particular business problem. So understand the business, understand the problem, understand how technology can solve that problem, but you do not need to necessarily be a programmer or a coder.
Okay. What does a tech business professional actually do inside a company?
A tech business professional usually is involved in solving business problems with technology. So the core role would be to understand business problem, translate that to exact technical requirements, and then work with the technical teams to solve those problems, and find out which technology can actually solve that particular problem.
Yeah. So, why do technically strong people sometimes struggle with business problems?
The core reason is sometimes technically strong people do have a very technical mindset. They start looking at things too technically, and they tend to not understand the core business problems, and that's something where the gap comes in. So I would really encourage everyone who is a techie also to start understanding the business problem, to start understanding how those problems can be solved, and not just focus too much on technology, rather focus on the problems and how can we solve those problems technically. So that is where techies are required now, rather than just focusing completely on one technology and trying to become an expert in that.
Okay, moving on. Why do businesses need people who can speak both languages, business and technology?
Because these are the people who can speak both the language, these are the people who understand both the sides of the story, right? So there can be a business which understands the business problem, or there can be business analysts who understand the business problems, but they have little knowledge on the technology part of it, the limitations, because technology will have its own limitations, right? And at the same time, there are people who understand the technology really well, but possibly do not understand the other side of the story, which is the business side of it. So there is this business which has got a few expectations, and there is this technology which has got a few limitations. And if there is someone who understands both sides of it, of course those professionals are going to be very useful for the company, and are the ones who will certainly grow pretty fast in their career.
Okay, since it's 2026, how is AI changing the skill set companies expect from professionals?
Now with the rise of AI and the AI agents, etc., a lot of repetitive tasks, a lot of basic coding, the boilerplate codes, etc., those can be easily generated by AI. So businesses do not expect, or companies do not expect the technical consultants or developers to be doing those jobs, or to be doing those activities on a regular basis, because those can be easily done by AI. Now the business expects techies also to be aware of the bigger problems, and try and suggest bigger solutions around it, rather than just focusing too much on smaller activities. Things like the overall architecture of it, how the business problem is getting solved, what sort of ROI are they getting from, or how do they compare the ROI between one technical solution versus the other technical solution. Those are the things which are now important for business, rather than just asking a developer to randomly go and write some code.
Okay. What skills should a student build if they want to enter this tech business space?
Anyone who is planning to get into a tech business professional, or trying to make a career around this, so now there are, of course, you will have to be technically sound, but technically sound now has a different definition. Technically sound does not mean that you are good with one technology. Technically sound would mean that you understand one specific area of business problem. Let's say if you're talking about CRM, Now you understand what CRM is, what sort of problems company face with CRM, and then how technology can solve that problem holistically and not just from one particular technology perspective. So skill sets would be understanding, identifying some business problems, understanding how technology can help solve that problem. Third thing would be communication is also now becoming equally more important, because if you have to become a tech business professional, only knowing the technology, good with programming, that may not be sufficient. You will have to understand the other side of the story, and because of that you'll have to communicate. So communication is also going to play a good role in that. So yeah, so understand business, understand business problems, understand how and which technology can solve that problem, and then of course should be able to communicate.
Okay, another big question: can understanding a business problem be more valuable than knowing a specific technology?
Of course, yes, because when you understand the business problem, you are able to suggest a solution, right? Based on the problem, you can basically suggest a solution. Knowing a technology limits your scope of growth as well, because you know some technology, you know how to work on that technology, but certainly you are not able to provide a solution, to a problem. So anyone who is a problem solver uh, definitely can be a good asset for a company, and companies would certainly prefer these kind of professionals.
Okay, what does a real tech plus business project look like from the problem to solution?
Yeah. So first thing in that phase would be identifying the problem, and then understand the actual users. So maybe the core problem, understanding who are the actual users and what sort of challenges they are facing, understanding that. Then try and figure out a solution around that, and then figure out which technology can be used to provide that solution, and then maybe implement. So yeah, identify the problem, understand the users, I would say design the solution, identify an app or technology that can solve that problem, and then finally execute or implement, and post that maybe measure the success, how it works.
Okay, lastly, where do you think the business tech professional is headed in the next 5 years?
uh, yeah, so business tech professionals are basically going to be the people who would continue to work as AI native workforce, I would say. These are the people who would utilize, who will be able to again bridge the gap between the business side of it and the technical side of it. They would be able to suggest how certain business problems can be solved technically, and also recommend a lot of AI agents, etc. Let the they should be able to get some work done with the help of AI, whether it is core development or those are day-to-day activities, so building of AI agents, etc. So these professionals should be able to plan for it and optimize the overall I would say development as well as the day-to-day activities which a business carries out. So yeah, that's what I would say the role of tech business professionals in the next 5 years is going to be.